So my name is Alyssa Opishinski. As Dr. Asplund said, I'm a graduate student here at University of Rhode Island in the TMD department. And since it's early in the morning, I thought it'd be nice to start off with some comic strips. Particularly the Infinite Wisdom of Calvin and Hobbes. So my talk is called We Didn't Start the Fire. And I'm here to talk to you today because for the last 3 years, I left my comfortable, independent adult life in New York with my partner and our 2 dogs to move back into my parents' home. Their generosity and support made it possible for me to pursue my master's degree here. But lest I give you the wrong impression, this was not really like a Brady Bunch kumbaya homecoming. So this is my family, and I'm the oldest sibling. I'm 10 years older than my youngest sister. She's all the way on the left. And that, in fact, makes us a 3-generation household. We are also multi-partisan, we are multi-religious, we are hot-tempered, and we're very opinionated. So even in less turbulent times, we all sort of always had some conflict going on. And Clifford Geertz, the well-known cultural anthropologist, tells us that social conflict is not the result of cultural forms ceasing to operate. Social conflict, rather, happens when cultural forms are pressed by unusual situations. And I think that we can all agree that the last 3 years have been full of unusual situations. Cultural can be defined in many ways, but here we're thinking of it in terms of the norms, beliefs, behaviors, and habits of a particular social group. While my family falls under the same umbrella for some social groups, and therefore has some shared norms, beliefs, etc., for example, we are all URI alums, we don't for others, and that includes generationally. The conflict in my family was a reflection of the conflict occurring on a larger scale in our society, which I am sure you all have experienced to some degree. Unfortunately, when it comes to working together on major public issues, like the climate crisis, this seems to have left us all a bit jaded. As the comic strip points out, many of us, when thinking about the idea of working together after the last 3 years, I think it says it all. But, regardless of our generational or political beliefs, I guess we all have that one thing in common. Intergenerational conflict and blame-mongering, rooted in generational stereotypes, is really nothing new, as we saw in the title slide from 1987. Yet, lately, it's been greatly exacerbated. It might be cathartic, but in the long run, it's really not constructive. These stereotypes, however true or false, are definitely driving a wedge between us when it comes to working together to solve the climate crisis. When I was asked to present on this topic, I was tasked with being solution and action oriented, and at first I felt a bit like a deer in the headlights. Solving intergenerational conflict is really a monumental ask, but then I thought about what had happened with my family over the course of the last 3 years. And coming out of this time with them, we're definitely not still singing Kumbaya around the campfire or anything, but also nobody canceled each other. And in fact, I would say we're probably the closest that we have ever been. We even all agree that solving the climate crisis is very important, albeit we go about it in very different ways. So how did we get to this point? We talk to each other. We talk to each other a lot. And really, it was unavoidable at times, thanks to lockdowns. But it was definitely more than that. During our talks, I started using some concepts and techniques that I had picked up from my studies in ethnography and cultural heritage. So yes, the humanities are actually very useful. Yes. And I shared these ideas with my family, who also started incorporating them, and now today I'm here to share them with you. So the first thing you have to do is you have to leave your assumptions and biases, whether they're positive or negative, at the door. This doesn't mean that you don't have them. Everybody has them. What it means is that you're going to look them squarely in the eye and acknowledge they exist. They're just not going to come into the room with you for this conversation. This is really very hard, especially when you're a natural pessimist like myself. But the best way I've found to work around my assumptions, trying to sneak back through the metaphorical door and lurk over my shoulder, is to think about why I could be excited to have a conversation with this person, rather than focusing on the negatives. Once you've shown your assumptions the door, you are ready to have a conversation. But a conversation is not just talking. Half of it, if not more, is engaged listening. And this requires getting genuinely curious about the other person. And the trick to this, I found, is asking questions. If you ask a question, you have to have really listened to what they said. So the next time you have a conversation, I challenge you to try responding only with questions, and not judgments veiled as questions, because then you've just let your assumptions back in. And if you get stumped, it always helps to resort to why questions. By asking enough of the right questions, you eventually get down to people's values. And this is when their actions and decisions will begin to make sense to you. We often share similar values, things like integrity and kindness. So even if they lead us to take different actions, different paths, we can still respect another person's point of view and what they've done. By finding our similarities in spite of our differences, we are finding what anthropologist Uni Wicon called resonance, or what we might familiarly know as empathy. And empathy helps us break down false assumptions so that the more empathy we can shore up, the more momentum you have to stay invested in this process, making it easier each time you engage with this person. But we still need to use this as a springboard for action. So I want you to take a moment to look around this room, because this room is full of people that want to help solve the climate crisis. So we all have that in common. And we have so many different experiences and resources and skills to offer each other. There isn't a single solution to the climate crisis. We need a lot of different solutions for a variety of situations. So we are going to have to work together to solve it. This room is full of opportunities, and all you have to do to start to tap into that is to just walk up to somebody and say hello. Thank you.